The USDA Food Values Database is a collection of thousands of food items that have been researched for nutrient value by the USDA Food Testing Laboratory. This database can be used to research nutrient values and creating recipe or meal food item ingredients. To access the included USDA Food Values database, we must be working in the Nutritional Data tab. Click this button to open the food item ingredients form. Note that the displayed ingredient is the same one selected in the ingredients list. If there are values in these two text boxes, that means that this ingredient has previously been researched using the USDA Food Values database. Click the USDA Food Values button to open the USDA database. We'll slide this over. The USDA record that was used to research, this ingredient in that record is identified by the values in these text boxes. Is the record that is initially displayed when the USDA database opens up the USDA ID value in the first field is the same value displayed here. The USDA measure displayed in the second field is the same one displayed here. Confirming that, this USDA record was used to research this food item ingredient. I'll select a different ingredient in the list and reopen the food item ingredients form. This time, there's no entries in these two text boxes. That means that this ingredient mangoes has not previously been researched using the USDA database. Click the USDA Food Values button, and the USDA database opens up, but the first record in that database is the one that is displayed. I'll reselect butter, reopen the ingredients form. Navigate to the USDA database. Pull this over a little bit. Because there were values in these two text boxes, when the USDA database opened, it displayed the specific ingredient in that database that was used to evaluate this ingredient. There are two keys that match USDA records with food item ingredients. One is the USDA ID number, that's this number here. That's this number here. And the USDA measure value, that's this value here, 1 tablespoon, as described in this column. Essentially, this USDA record is saying that the USDA evaluated the nutrition content of butter based upon 1 tablespoon of the butter. The USDA has actually evaluated butter based upon a number of different measures. To see all the other measures, click the Show All button. You can see here that USDA has evaluated butter based upon 1 cup of butter, a pat of butter, a stick of butter, and a tablespoon of butter. I'll select one of the tablespoon items. There's one item for fat, carbo and protein, and I'll click Enable Selected. That again displays just the one ingredient that was used to match this ingredient. The grams of fat, carbohydrate, and protein in the USDA item are used to calculate the values in the food item ingredient. In this example, we evaluated from USDA point of view 1 tablespoon of butter, and we have a 1 tablespoon of butter ingredient. Accordingly, the numbers for fat, carbohydrate, and protein are the same. Again, the food item ingredient form indicates that butter with salt was evaluated on the basis of 1. Butter, then the values in the grams column here would be 8 times, which shown here because there are 8 tablespoons of butter in a stick of butter. However, even in that case, the USDA measure would still indicate 1 tablespoon because we would be using a 1 tablespoon ingredient to compute the 1 stick ingredient over here. Again, 8 times these values would equal a stick ingredient because there would be 8 tablespoons in a stick. You can search the USDA Food Value Database for food items using several techniques. One method is to use this large blue dropdown and look for an item. Let's see if we can find zucchini squash. So, we'll open the dropdown and start typing squash. There's a whole bunch of them, and if we go down far enough, we'll find the one I'm looking for, which is going to be zucchini, which includes its skin and it's raw. I'll click that. And we can see that the USDA has evaluated zucchini a whole bunch of ways by the cup chopped, cup sliced. A large one, a medium one, a slice, and a small. The ID number for this particular zucchini is 11477. Let's go back to our butter ingredient. We'll close this. Click this again, and we'll back there right away. Another way to search is to use this drop-down, where we can search by the ID number. I think the ID number was 11477. There it is, I'll select it. And we've returned to our zucchini items. You can also search for USDA food items by doing a keyword search. Click the search button to start a keyword search. Enter a keyword. For this example, we'll look for oyster ingredients. After typing in the keyword, click OK. This is a list of all the items in the database that contain the word oyster. The one I'm looking for is going to be mollusk oysters Eastern Wild Raw. I'll select that and then click the Show Command button. The USDA item is displayed. You can also search the USDA website for food items. Click this button to navigate to the USDA search site. The United States Department of Agriculture, better known as the USDA, operates a food testing laboratory. The purpose of this laboratory is to analyze common foods and determine their nutrition value. The USDA makes the results of these analyses publicly available on its website. The website is called Food Data Central. The Food Data website offers the results of these analyses in several collections. Currently, there are 5 separate collections. We'll concentrate on the SR Legacy collection. This collection contains the USDA food value items found in the CookBookPlus application itself. To look up the nutrition values for a food item, click the Browse button on the appropriate collection. Typically, the page will open up and display items starting at the beginning of all the food items in the collection. To look for a certain item, click in the control in the upper left corner, and what we're going to do is we're going to look for oyster, so we'll type in OYSTER and then click Search. That search returned a number of different items. Oysters, by the way, are in the group called mollusks, so all the oyster items will start with the term mollusk. We're going to be wanting to find the nutrition values for mollusk oysters Eastern Wild Raw. Click that link, and the items are displayed. Let me scroll just a little bit. First thing I'll point out is that with the Nutrients tab selected here, and that's the default tab. If you open this drop-down, you'll see that nutrients are analyzed for 100 grams, 1 cup of oysters, or 6 medium oysters. We're going to be interested in the 1 cup oysters, so we'll select that. And the nutrient values we're interested in will be energy kilocalories. 126 is the total calories contained in 1 cup of oysters. We'll also be interested in the protein, in this case 14.2. The total fat or lipids, in this case 4.24 grams ARC, and the total carbohydrates, in this case 6.75 grams. What you would do is write down the values for kilocalories, protein, fat, and carbohydrate, and then return to CookBookPlus AIC and enter those values in either a new ingredient or update an existing ingredient. If you want to get the values for a different measure, in this case, 6 medium oysters, select that value. And correspondingly, you can get the values for kilocalories or total calories, protein, fats, and carbohydrates. To search for a different food item, scroll back to the top and either go back to Search or Home. When finished working with the USDA website, close the Browser tab. You can do that using Control-W. That will return you to the CookBookPlus Web Apps USDA page if you access the USDA website from that page originally. To demonstrate how to use the USDA database to create ingredients, we're going to create a number of oyster ingredients using the nutrients in the USDA food items. We'll start by clicking the Add New Ingredient command button on the ingredients form. We'll give this ingredient a descriptive name. We're going to call this Oysters Example. And we'll select a measure, and we're going to do the first example oysters by the cup. Next, we need to enter the grams of fat, carbohydrate, and protein in 1 cup of oysters. If we look at the USDA items, we can see that oysters were evaluated on the basis of 1 cup and 6 medium oysters. We could certainly copy the 1 cup values for grams of fat, carbo, protein by hand over to this area. However, a more convenient way would be to select one of the items for the 1 cup item and then click Enable Selected. Now only the records for 1 cup of oysters are displayed. After we clicked the Enable Selected, these series of command buttons were enabled. Because we're creating a 1 cup ingredient here, using a 1 cup ingredient here, we're going to click the Post as is command button that will copy these values exactly as is to these locations. Click the button. Confirm this. It's saying that the values in these text boxes, which are blank, don't match the values here and here. That's okay. It's a new ingredient. After the button processed, you can see that the grams of fat, carbohydrate, and protein were transferred exactly. Our next example will be oysters by the pint. To do this, click Add this ingredient with a new Measure button. Start typing pint. That selects the Measure Enter key. Now we have an ingredient oysters by the pipe. You just need to get the grams of fat, carbo, and protein in there. There are 2 cups of oysters and a pint of oysters, so we need to multiply. these values by 2 to get the right numbers to put in over here. For that purpose, we're going to use the post MULX function. Click this button, confirm that we know it's a new ingredient. I'm going to enter the multiply factor, which will be the number 2. Click OK. Now we have an oyster ingredient by the pint, with the correct value for the grams, which were these values times 2. Our next example, oyster ingredient will be oysters by the dozen. Before proceeding, we need to find a USDA record where oysters are evaluated on the basis of a single oyster. So we'll open this dropdown, and I'll navigate up, and I happen to know that Oysters Pacific Raw has an oyster where they evaluate a single oyster. I will select one of those and click Enabled Selected. Next, click the Add this ingredient with a new measure to start a new ingredient. Then we'll select a dozen. And now we just simply need to get the values here multiplied by 12 and post it over here. For that purposes, we'll click the Post MULX again. This time our multiplier will be 12. There are 12 oysters in a dozen oysters. Click OK. And now the values here represent the values in 12 single oysters. We'll navigate back to our original oyster ingredient. The USDA has listed the ounces of oysters included in each of the measure values they use. For instance, these values here, 8.75 ounces, are the number of ounces in 1 cup of oysters. Alternatively, 2.96 ounces or the number of ounces in 6 medium oysters. So for our next ingredient, we're going to create oysters by the ounce. Accordingly, we can use any one of these measures to accomplish that. I'll click back again on the 1 cup number and use Enable Selected. Next, we'll click Add this ingredient with a new measure. And this will be by the ounce, which is O. So ounce of oysters, in order to get the values here, all we need to do now is click the Post per ounce command button. All it did was take these values here and divide them by the number of ounces in that measure to come up with these values here. Our next ingredient will be oysters by the pound. Again, click Add this ingredient with a new measure. We'll type in pound POU, enter key. We can still use this same USDA item because what is going to happen is that when we click the Post per pound button, it's going to take these values, divide them by these number of ounces, and then multiply them by 16, because there are 16 ounces in a pound. Click the Post per pound button, and we now have the nutrient values for 1 pound of oysters. Our next sample ingredient will be oysters each. We need to make an ingredient for a single oyster. Once again, click Show All. Fortunately, there's a value for measure here where the USDA evaluated 6 oysters at the same time. So what we need to do is take these numbers, divide them by 6 to get a nutrition value list for a single oyster. To proceed, I'm going to click on one of the 6 medium items and click Enable Selected. Then we'll start a new ingredient by clicking Add this ingredient with a new measure. This will be each single oyster, oysters each. To do the computation, I'm going to click on Post DIVX. That's going to take these values, divide them by 6, and post them over here. The divide factor will be 6. Okay, now we have an oyster ingredient for a single oyster.